guys. Welcome to the first episode of Unpacking Love and Unpack with Michelle podcast. I'm super, super excited to be kicking off this podcast with two of my really good friends. We have Carol and we have George. So, you guys are going to get to hear both the female perspective and the male perspective from my guests as well as from myself. And today we are going to be talking about the talking stage. Yay!
Yay!
Nice.
Yes. Okay, cool. So, Carol, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. Just super excited to talk about topics that I really love discussing over. So, yeah.
Let's get it. George, how's it going?
Going good. I'm excited as well. Do I have to put a disclaimer? I do not represent the male species. It's very complicated. I only express my views and those that I've seen mostly around me. So, just a disclaimer.
Oh, and true. I'm not here for the female species. I am just, one piece of the puzzle. So same as well.
Yes. Wow, people are coming through with some really strong disclaimers. But yes, guys, the whole point of this podcast is really just so that people can learn, just pick a few things here and there. Maybe you've been trying something in the talking stage that hasn't been working out from you. And like one of the guests I have today might say something that might stick with you. So we're going to get right into it and have a good time. And we're actually going to do ladies first here. So, Carol, when we talk about the talking stage, what is it to you? So, like, what's the purpose and like, what are you looking for during that stage?
Okay, so first of all, I only realized or found out about this talking stage when I moved from Zimbabwe and I came to America, right? So for me, when people would ask me, "Oh, are you talking to this person?" I used to just say, "Yeah," I talk to them, and I didn't know what it meant until like an American pretty much explained to me that no, they meant like, were you guys kicking it? Were you guys together but not together? And I feel like, for me, it was just like 3 years of my life in the US. Apparently, I had to talk to multiple people and I didn't know it. So, for me, how I define the talking stage is somewhat an introduction to somebody with them kind of like highlighting interest of some sort. Let's say maybe physical attraction, emotional attraction, intellectual attraction. But the talking stage for me is like introduction to getting to know somebody, not on a friendly level, with the intention of not like, being, friends. It's something more than that. And yeah, I think that's how I would look at the talking stage.
Okay, I like that. I think that was pretty solid. And I like the cultural aspect that you added to it as well. So Carol and I are both Zimbabwean, and back home we really didn't use the word talking stage. So it was also a first coming here. So let's kick it over to George. Any thoughts about what Carol said, or you can just jump into what you think the talking stage is and the purpose.
Well, I'd like to iterate a little of the sentiment. I'm also from Kenya. We didn't exactly have a talking stage, but especially in high school, because this was the big thing in high school, we called it vibing, which I understand also can mean something different. But basically, when girls came over to the boys' school, or you went to the girls' school, or met in a function, wherever, there was this pressure that you needed to, to talk to girls and get to know them, hopefully get a phone number, because that would be the highlight of the day when you go back to school and you have bragging rights for like forever, right? So that was sort of the talking stage. But just to iterate what Kyle says, for me, talking stage is also introduction, getting to know somebody, who they are, which has also changed as I've grown up. But I'll discuss that more during the podcast.
Okay, I like that a lot. I like that. Yeah, I think that's very solid. It sounds like there's a cultural aspect to it, but there's also as you get older and more mature, like certain things now mean different things, and you're looking for different things as you talk to people as well. Which, as you said, George, you get into it later. But I think when I think of the talking stage in this cultural aspect now, it's like you want to see if there's chemistry between you and the person that you're talking to, and you want to see if they're like common interests.
Mm-hmm.
like values, is your life generally heading in the same direction as the person? And it's not, this is like on a very like surface level, right? So
Mm-hmm.
obviously the relationship itself, which is not what we're gathered here for, the relationship itself and dating is a period of like, more extensive research on the person. But the talking stage is like you're trying to get high level, like what's going on. So cool. All right. Well, since Carol took the first one, the second question will go to George. George, how long do you think people should talk for?
That's relative to a lot of things. Forgive me, my profession necessitates me having a lot of assumptions, but I would say it depends on what your intentions are. If it's casual dating, then your talking stage would be very quick. Like you want to be in and out of there, right? So I wouldn't say it shouldn't last more than a week if that's what you're looking for, right? But if you're looking for a serious relationship, as I've grown older, I realized talking stage is very important as the first step. So I think it lasts longer, maybe somewhere to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, perhaps, just to get a good feel of who this person is. Because I'm assuming, even though you're talking every day, you're building up like the years to somebody. So you want to get like a good peel of that layer. Especially the older they are, there's a lot more that goes on. Hope you'll be able to see red flags before, but there's rose-colored glasses. But ideally, I would say it depends on your intention.
It depends on age.
Age and intention. If your intention is just casual, then you're in and out quick. If your intention is something more serious, then you're taking it more seriously. So it lasts longer because you're getting to know a person, and there's so many layers to everybody.
Okay, and just to dig in a little bit on the age part. So do you mean like you mentioned like what the person's age is? Like,
Yes.
Can you elaborate on like what that has to do with this? Like if you're talking to someone who's like 16, let's hope you won't be at your big age. Okay, maybe let's not
put 18 at least the legal age. Put at least the legal age.
Okay, if you're talking to someone who's 18 versus someone who's 28, like what's the story there, George?
So at 18, wow, haven't talked to anybody 18.
Thank God.
Okay. So somebody who's 18, then they're still in high school. Or they've just finished high school. The maturity levels usually aren't there, according to my experience. There's some who are mature for sure, but a lot of them aren't mature. So there's not a lot that has happened in their life that necessitates a lot of experience. It's a lot of fluff. A lot of this is what I want to do in college. There's not much. As opposed if you're talking to somebody who's like 28, like me. I've gone to high school. I've been to college. I've had some years of work experience. I've had a lot more heartbreaks. So there's a lot to me. So then that necessitates to get to know me. You'd be like, okay, so what are your ambitions? Because now I have a general idea of what my ambitions are as I head to like, the big 3-0 and that kind of stuff. For someone who's just like, okay, this is what I want to do in college, especially in the US, because somebody, like in my college, somebody changed their major 40 times.
Wow.
It's definitely a difference there.
I see. Yeah, thanks for like elaborating on that one. Carol, do you have any thoughts on this? Well, basically on what George said, and then just for you, like how long do you think people should talk for?
Okay, I guess I'll segue, but I'll start by saying for me, a month. And I'm solid, like rock solid on my month. Through my experience of just being in several talking stages.
It's how you said it. It's how you said it.
I think a month is, a good mark for me, and a good mark for a lot of like young ladies, just because of, a couple of things. So I know George, you said, 2 to 3 weeks, and I feel like it's too soon only because in 2 to 3 weeks, I feel like you're getting the best of somebody, right? You're getting the best looks. Every time you ask me out on a date when we're talking, trust and believe me, my hair is going to be on point. My clothes are going to be on point. Like you're going to see the best of me, like every single time. So yeah, 2 to 3 weeks is somewhat a little bit too much, I mean, depending on how frequent you see each other. Like some people, in the talking stage, they just want to see people like once every week. So that's 4 times. So those are 4 interactions to determine something. I feel like that's too little. But in the month, personally, with my personality, I'm pretty much open to communicate to the person I'm interested in that, hey, at least see each other twice a week
Mm-hmm.
to start out. And then, of course, like during the week, we're talking, texting, we're also calling. So I'm getting like a feel of the person, but I somewhat say a month just because, in the month, everyone is bringing in their A game. Even guys in general, like they're also bringing in the A game because you want to impress somebody that you like or are attracted to. Because the hopes, I would think, is for a successful talking stage, eventually moving over. So, yeah, for me, I think I'm solid on a month of talking um, because of those factors.
I think, it's very interesting, right? Like you see a lot of things like Netflix, Hulu, and other subscription type of things, and they always say
Hmm.
1 month free trial,
Trial.
1 month free trial. So I feel like it's a good guideline, right? And pretty much like what you said, I think through experience, you can, through experience, I've also seen this whole thing of like, oh man, like you can talk for months and months and months, and it's like, okay, like I think that yes, you want to get to know the person, but I also think that like the talking stage is not the relationship. Okay. So I still stand by in the talking stage, let's get the basics, the basic big things out the way. But like you said, Carol, maybe like a month would be that chop off. And I think George, circling back to what you said about, age and stuff like that. I think another aspect to it is yes, there's the maturity thing, but there's also like, as you get older, right? Like I'm going to speak from a woman's perspective. As you get
Hmm.
older, maybe, when I was 21, I could talk to you for 5 years, just being the talking. I wouldn't, but like, maybe I could have done a talking stage for like, 2 years or
Hmm.
whatever, right? But like as you get older, to be honest, I think like, let's be serious. If I'm looking for something serious and the person's not looking for something serious, I should be able to pick it up, hopefully, like you said, in a month, and then we just go our separate ways. Because there's nothing worse than wasting time, right? So that's also my thought on that. um
Can I can I
oh yeah.
also, add on to what you just said? And I feel
Hmm.
like this is the thing, right? I feel men don't have the rush because of biologically, men don't have a rush. Biologically, women kind of have to, we have certain expiry dates, unfortunately. Is it
That's
fair?
true.
I don't think so. But I can just attest to just saying, there's a difference. Like when I was 21, it would have been fine for me to talk to someone for 5 years because I was still 25 and I'm still in my prime technically, whatever the bracket of prime is. I can still go out there and, I don't have anything that's rushing me out. But of course, the inside of 21 versus 25 is totally different. I think at 25, I would know what not to do based off me talking to someone for 5 years. Sometimes some people can see it as a disadvantage, and some people can see it as I discovered myself, I discovered what I wanted. They can see it as a lesson as well. So, we're not gonna bash the people that date for like 5 years. I mean, that talk for 5 years. Is it for me? No, it's not for me. But kudos to them, kudos to the people that can do that. But with women, with men, time is not a factor, but women, time is a factor. And the older men get, the more their value, and the older women get, I think somewhat, some way, certain things start depreciating in values because now you're 30 competing with 21-year-old.
That's
So
so funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, also, you know what? I also want to put it out there that, this is not to put pressure on men and say like, oh, people's clocks are ticking. I think this is more for women, right? Like we, when we go into these things, I think we need to like establish beforehand that like my cutoff is this time. Because when you
Mhm,
go in, you might start talking to someone and you really, really enjoy talking to them, right? And once you're in,
mhm,
you find out, oh my gosh, 1 month down, 2 months down, like 2 months down, 3 months down. So it's just good to like know before going in that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna operate this like Netflix, like Hulu, free trial for 1 month, and I'm out. George, any thoughts on this? Because I know we said a lot about women.
No, I agree with your sentiments. Though that depends, though, what happens after the talking stage, right? Are you just jumping into a serious relationship? Because then that would take longer. But if it's just purely okay, what do you do? How what are your hobbies? Then that's different.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do understand your 1 month. If it's just okay, 1 month getting to know you, and then after 1 month, are you jumping into a relationship, or are you doing a pseudo relationship? Like what's the deal? Maybe if that's made clear, then I'm like, okay, fine. I see where the 1 month child is coming.
I think
And
after that, then like you go into the relationship. But I don't want to go further down this road because there's another episode that will come, DTR, defining the relationship, and I think that one will will jump more into like the nitty gritties of this one. But
all right,
question
if it's
actually, oh, go ahead.
yeah, if you're after the talking stage, you're going to a relationship, then 1 month is reasonable.
Oh, okay. I think
Yeah.
there's a consensus. Everybody kind of agrees. Now, guys, also just to let you know, like this is not to say this is what we have done in the past. We ourselves are learning on this podcast that when we talk to people, we're gonna chop you off after a month. So cool beans. And actually, I was on Instagram and I saw this, I don't know, meme or whatever. So this girl, right? She had posted. I'm gonna read what she posted. So she's like, "This man I've been in a talking stage with for 3 years is now getting married on Saturday. After investing my time and energy, he left me for someone else. Nobody deserves this." And guys, when I tell you, first of all, people destroyed her in the comments. They said, 3 years, are you a professor? Like, what were you doing? Like talking to someone for 3 years. So this is just to say, you know what, there should be a maximum for how long you're gonna talk to someone. You don't want to be in a situation, like I said, we'll get into that in the DTR episode, but like you don't want to be in a situation where you're like talking, because I feel like you also kind of don't have certain rights. But let me not preempt the next question. Carol, I will kick it off to you. What
Sure.
rights do you have when you're like talking to someone? What rights do you think like you have?
Nothing.
Well, that
No,
was simple.
seriously. I know. I mean, like very simple, but because of one, my experience, and then two, how I define the talking stage. I feel like there's really like nothing that I can say, oh, it's my right to, just because it pretty much like uncovers a lot of things that are not part of the talking stage. So, you don't owe them anything, they don't owe you anything. But what you do owe each other is hopefully the honesty in your intentions. That's one. The honesty in getting to know each other. That's two. So I think when you talk about rights, I don't know, are we talking about human rights? Like, of course, like respect, like respect, what I mean? Like,
No.
they're the basic rights. I feel like, but then when it comes to the situation itself, I genuinely think that there is nothing, and that's not to say I don't respect myself or anything, but talking stage as defined, and that's when people start to act and move a little bit different. We'll let talking stage be talking stage, and this is a getting to know somebody, and then establishing certain things or certain will come later, or even during, or even later on when you're closing, that final week of saying, okay, in conclusion, right? And then you can go ahead and say, this is my right, but yeah, I feel like if I was to say a right, I would say maybe the right to be true to yourself, um between the two of you, and yeah, that's as much as I can say about this one.
Wow. Okay, so Carol comes in with a strong, you have no rights. George, what do you have to say about this? When
Actually,
you're talking to someone,
I
what
thought I'd
rights
have
do you
to
have?
fight on this one because I also agree you have no right. But then I want to throw a question to you, Carol. Then, since we're
Sure.
doing this, what if there are multiple of you in this talking stage? So you're talking to somebody, but is it okay for him to also talk to somebody and look for that
Yeah, as
perspective, or
long as
you?
I don't know. Like me personally, listen, like because I do the same thing, right? If I'm talking to it's a talking, you're like, okay, we are laughing, right? But this is so real. It's reality, sorry. But like,
Mhm.
I feel like, of course, like coming from an African culture or coming from where we are from, we all knew we did not have a talking stage. It was, hey, how are you? And suddenly we're in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But when you came to this culture, it's like I got to learn certain things and certain aspects of it. And I got to also find out that, hey, when it comes to this stage, you know what, don't give your all, just
Mm.
you're at a wine tasting. Don't
Come
dedicate
on.
yourself to, you know, don't dedicate yourself to like Chardonnay or I'm a red, or even you can say, okay, I prefer red wines versus white wines. But there's Merlot, there's different wines. So go ahead and do your wine tasting in the talking stage. But for me personally, I wouldn't want to know that you're talking to some. I of course I can know, but like I wouldn't want you to exchange that or let that be a part of our conversation when you're talking to me. I have you for, let's say, a set amount of time, and you have other people for set amount of time. But when you're talking to me, I feel like communicate your intentions about me. I don't care about Britney, Beyonce. I don't care about anybody else but me. So talking stage, yeah, wine tasting, not
I
wine. Yeah, that's it.
I love it. I think the analogy made it very, very clear. So, okay, I mean, and for this question, I guess you guys might probably just have the exact same thing, same answer to like the rights question, right?
Mhm.
And the next question I'll pose it to Carol was going to be like, what are the expectations you have of someone that you're talking to?
Oh, expectations.
Hmm.
Okay, so hmm, expectations. That you know what? Look, sorry, I'm an overthinker because George, go ahead. Actually,
All right,
just
I can
start
I can hit
talking
with this
because
one,
yeah.
right? So for me, expectation, like I said, age played a factor, right? So when I was younger, it was
Mm,
fine if you just, say a few words, look pretty. That was nice, because that was, so that was the main thing. It's like you find the prettiest chick, because then that gave you the most rep, in the hood, right? But then the older I get, I want more engagement. If I'm talking to you and I'm like, oh, how have you been? What do you think about this? Okay, hi, maybe, no. That's one the answers just don't cut it for me. It's so
Mm,
exhausting talking to somebody like that. So my only expectation is, I hear engagement. If I'm like, okay, what do you think about this? Or how was your day? I want to engage. And,
mm,
oh, my day is fine. Then you add something to it, and so that you can keep the conversation going. But if it's
mm,
very one-sided, and I've noticed this with young people, where it's just hi, okay, hello, good. It's exhausting talking to somebody like that.
mhm.
mm.
So for
Wow.
me, at
Okay.
least engagement. I just want you to engage so that I get to know you. Because then if you're just saying hi, okay, how was your day? It was fun. I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do with fun?
Yeah. Okay.
You
I see.
know?
I feel like that makes a lot of sense because you are
Yeah.
trying to get to know the person and those responses matter. And I guess you can use it as a gauge, like to gauge if
Yeah.
they're like interested or not. Carol, I actually have a question to you. I'll kind of like phrase it differently since the
Mhm.
expectations one was kind of a little tricky. When someone is talking to you, right, and you're like you said, talking to say multiple people,
Mhm.
like is there something that will make someone stand out? So it's kind of like the question is like, is there an expectation of how often this guy should contact you?
Pressure. There's something about pressure and something about, for me, like anything that's striking that will make someone stand out. If I answer that first question, standing
Mm,
out is you've done something that is completely out of character for someone who's just wanting to know somebody to do. Like, hey, listen, for me, out of the norm is, hey, I swim in the ocean. And I had to literally, like, not literally like swim in the ocean, but like it has to be something that is outside of the norm of the talking stage for me to gravitate towards you being the number one competitor, right? You
Wait,
know?
but Carol, no. Let's actually put. I mean, you're using this ocean analogy. Let's put real things so we can
Okay,
understand.
I'll put a real thing and I'll base it
Okay.
off an experience I actually had.
Mm.
I went out one night with three girlfriends, three girlfriends. A guy approached me and was like, "Hey, I want you to come and hang out with me and my friends." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So first, right, was outside of the three friends is the energy, and the just guys. I mean, Georgia, I don't know if you can attest to this. It's nerve-wracking approaching, first of all, four women, right? And
Yeah.
then you're only going to attack one, right? So
Attack.
Recipe for disaster.
Animal
That never
kingdom.
works.
yeah, so
That
he
never works.
approached me and it was like, okay, so from that instance, he was like, "Oh, I know you have your friends. So come with your friends so that you are comfortable, but I'm coming to talk to you because I'm interested in you." Right? So of course, like the night went on and everything like that, and we exchanged contact because he wanted the whole like group to kind of like go to another place. And I was just like, "Hey, I don't feel like it's safe for me and just girls. We just met you, but it was a great night." And fast forward. And I honestly, this is not to mean anytime I go out, this happens, right? So this is not something that is, not, this is a frequent thing that happens in my life, you
Carol
know?
said, guys, just
So,
so you
so
know,
even
I'm
exchanging
hot.
contact, they
Yeah.
they reach out to you. Even by the time Sunday comes, the moment I even say, "Oh, I'm coming from church" or whatever, they've already stopped communicating with you. So I'm kind of used to it. So of course that happened. The communication went off, and about a month or a month and a half later, the same guy, he reached out with a different number. He was like, "Hi, Carol, it's da da da," and I said, "Oh, okay, hi." I said wrong number. I literally typed I texted, I said wrong number, even though he mentioned my name and he mentioned his name, right? Um, so after he was like, "No, this is Carol. Let me tell you what happened. My phone got stolen. I traveled for Thanksgiving. I had to get a new phone. I also had to get a new line. The only way I tracked you was I had to go to WhatsApp and then go through profile pictures of people, saw your profile, and then got your contact to text you again." So yeah, see, like in a talking stage, that's something that's out of the norm. Like, "Oh, okay, now me, that's swimming a river." He didn't have to reach back to me, right? But he expressed so much interest in the, how many 2 hours, 3 hours we engaged together, that he was like, "No, I need to get to know you." So, that's an example. That's a realistic example.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a realistic example, like you said, because it actually happened, and it's also very, very rare in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that, like, like someone would lose their phone and then, like, eventually find themselves, back in the DM. So, okay, I see. So it sounds like when you're talking to multiple people, the person who's going to do what seems like the most and out of the ordinary is the person who's going to win.
Not
Not
just that.
always.
No.
Mm.
Not
But
just
that starts. At least that
Don't make
starts
it.
out.
I
I
know,
get
right?
what you're
Don't make
saying.
it seem like it's just you just have to do that and you're already winning. No, it's
Mm.
also what follows through after that. I mean, that you
Mhm.
asked what makes them stand out. That's an occasion that made him stand out of the people I was talking to. So he stood out, and then it's like, oh, now I can actually engage in getting to know the person as well, so we can start talking.
Mm.
So yeah, the intention was met. Hey, I want to get to know you, and I said, "Oh, okay, cool. I understand your struggle. I understand you swam an ocean. So let's go ahead and do that." So yeah.
Okay. I think it's good. It's good to kind of measure the expectations, right? Because ultimately, if there are 10 people who are talking to you at the same time, um, you would want to, like, in order to see who even qualify for the semifinals or whatever, right? In the Olympics, like, they're definitely going to need to. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is this: like, if there are 10 people that I'm talking to, and I see
Mm.
that like 8 of them they only contact me once a week, on the weekend, then those people I'm probably not going to pay attention to them. But if there's someone who like actually makes the effort of like, reaching out to me, or like, like to George's point, engaging with me, maybe it could be like sending me something that's thought provoking and stuff like that, then that's someone who you would look to. So that's kind of like the expectation, that people still bring like their full energy, that kind of communicates their intent. I like it.
Sure.
I like it. Cool. I think we need to wrap this up. So one last question that I'll ask you guys, and I'll start with George. Do you have certain things that you consider like out of limits or off limits? I mean, like boundaries during talking.
Boundaries. Well, for me is one of the experiences. Keep the crazy to a low.
What's crazy though? Define crazy.
Because you're talking to someone, and then the next thing you know, oh, we're dating. Someone's like, "How many kids do you want to have?" I'm like, "Bruh, like, slow it down."
Calm down.
And then and then the thing for me that bothers me is when someone already claims you, right? So you're out here thinking, okay, I'm just talking to this person, but all of a sudden, oh no, you're dating, and marking territory. That's the one that they like to use. At least from my experience, you mark your territory. It's like, no, this one is mine. Don't. I'm like, no, just keep we're talking. Keep it down. That's for me. That's my biggest boundary. I also don't expect you to tell me your whole life story. I mean, you're welcome to.
Okay.
But there's certain things I would withhold until I get to know you more before I start sharing.
Okay. So and by getting to know you more, do you now mean in the sense of like there are certain things that you would only share after some months in a relationship with someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. I mean, I can't start sharing them at the beginning. It's that slowly, building it up. Because then I learned someone has to earn it. I can't, because then it's usually very weird if someone comes on the first day and changes their whole life. So that's very jarring, to be honest. Because then it's like, okay, I don't know you. And then there's now someone puts pressure on you to tell them about your life story, and I don't like that. It's a talking stage. It's like, okay, what do you do? What do you enjoy? What are your hobbies? And then eventually you ease into like, oh, how was your childhood? What are some of your fears? What are, some of the things you aspire to? You ease into it. There are some people where it happens faster. There's some people where it happens faster for sure, because you just have that connection. And like you say, the engagement. Someone who engages with you a lot, it's faster for you to reach there, because eventually it gets there. But for someone who talks to you once in a while, once in a day, it takes longer for that to. That's usually the point where you get tired of them and you just boot them out. That's my boundary.
Okay. I have a question. Physical boundaries. Do you have like things that you say like are off limits or not?
When I was younger, there was no off limits on the physical. I was thirsty and I was, out there to drink water, quench myself.
Quench
it, But then as I got older, I realized it's very important to get to know somebody first before, because then physical becomes very intimate very quickly. And the problem with that is now you get attached very quickly without knowing this person. And then in hindsight, you start saying things which are off with them, but you've already invested. And there's that thing of like, oh no, this person will change. You start making excuses for them, right? So when I tried dating again for some experiences, I was just like, okay, let me get to know you. So I tried to keep it as very platonic as possible. I hardly even flirt during the talking stage. I'm like, no, let me get to know you. So if I'm like, okay, this is not gonna work out, it's easy for me to jump in the friend zone. I personally jump in the friend zone, at least for me. But sometimes it doesn't work exactly the same way, because humans are humans. But I keep it very platonic. I'm like, okay, in a situation where if I bring my mom or my dad or anybody else to that conversation, it's like, oh, we're just talking. So that's the boundary that I put. As the older as I got, but when I was young, just quench my thirst.
Okay, sounds good. I hear you. Carol, let's take it off from the physical, and then if you have any other kind of closing remarks, you can add them. Physically, is there anything that's off limits during the talking stage?
You know what? I mean, it's a very tough question because I've not had, like, I think all of my experiences of the talking stage are very different. And um, it's not like I don't prioritize like anything physical. Of course, respect my space. I actually, no, yeah, yeah. Actually, let me correct myself. I've had an instance where I was grateful that someone asked of something before they did it, right? So, I was talking to someone, and basically because he took me out on one date, I didn't, I was just talking to this person like, oh, I'm getting to know you. It wasn't even like I'm attracted to you like that. But thankfully, when he like ended up dropping me off, he hugged me, and I was like, okay with the hug. And then he asked to kiss me, and I said, ah. I said no. So, there are certain boundaries like that, at least, when it comes to the physical, at least announce yourself before performing anything. That
Okay,
is,
but it sounds like to me though, and I'm reading between the lines. It
hmm
sounds like if the person does announce, you are okay with, like physical intimacy during the talking stage.
yeah, if I see it fit, I don't see it fit on any first date. I'll tell you that, right?
Okay.
But if I
Hmm.
see it fit after getting to know you a little bit more, yeah. If I see it fit, great. If you ask the question, okay.
Hmm.
But the question would be nice before you just plant your lips on my lips. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a boundary, the physical boundary. But other boundaries for me, yeah, I would support George on the whole personal stuff. I'm not going to know your life story. I'm a very empathetic person. So even sometimes when it comes to that, like sometimes I've wound up in situations where I ended up dating someone because I also felt sorry for them or
Oh
sorry for
God.
their situation, or I got into their problems a lot more, and I'm a very, like, I feel like I'm Captain Silver, you know. So yeah, I mean, let's not divulge in too much personal detail. Second, just asking things that are outside of the dating stage. Oh, how many kids do you want? No, please, I don't want to know right now.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
let's not talk about it if anything to do with children hasn't happened between us, right? Um, so I guess, and for me, actually, like, I don't know if I can classify this as a boundary, but like as a somewhat a standard. Like, I just feel like knowing someone's basic family structure. I'm not telling you whose aunt is beefing with which aunt, which one you don't. I'm just asking for the family structure because that helps somewhat some way. Through me going through therapy, just understanding someone's communication skills, or someone's reasoning behind why they prefer doing, or like they're just shy or certain questions. So I think basic
Mm.
family structure is important. And I guess lastly, also to add on that, it's also, what are love languages? I think they are very important, and even identifying those and saying those in the talking stage, just so you can understand better, communicate with the person. Communication is not just verbal, right? Like, it's
Hmm.
also, there are gestures, there are certain things other people do that may be confusing to someone. But if it's someone's love language, you can be able to put yourself in their shoes and be like, oh, this is how they communicate, and this is how they show their interest in you. So yeah, but yeah, boundaries, physical, I've already said that part. And just don't overly share when it comes to the talking stage.
Hmm.
Because it can put people in very uncomfortable situations.
And
Yep.
and
So
you know what? Like, not only that, I also think that, like, because the talking stage is like the, let's call it the phone screening of a job
mhm,
interview, right?
mhm,
If, like, you end up talking to like 35 people and it doesn't work out with 35 people, and you've told each and every one of those people like your, you know, deepest fears, your whole
mhm,
life story, like all your big ideas, even with ideas, guys. Like, I feel like,
mhm,
you know, things that you want to accomplish in life. Yeah, if someone asks me like what are my aspirations, I'm going to tell you, high level, but I'm not going to go into the details. Because also imagine if I'm like trying to come up with an app, right? Like an application or whatever. And then I
mhm,
tell this person that I'm talking to, they leave, and then they have more capital, and then the next thing, the idea is already out there and they've
Yep.
already done it. Because the truth is, you cannot just trust anyone. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important, from what I'm just hearing from this conversation, it's important to establish trust before you can fully let someone get to know everything about you.
Mm-hmm.
Any last remarks, guys? We are at time.
I do. It's okay to figure it out your way. No one should define anything for you when it comes to you seeking a partner or anything. Just you'll figure it out somehow, some way, based off religion, based off friends, based off advice, based off tradition. It'll work out your way, and it's okay. It doesn't have to be set in stone. There's no book. There's no recipe to this cake.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I
Come
have
on,
to say.
sis, with the analogies. I like it. George, any last remarks?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to I share the same sentiments, and I'd like to echo what Carol saying. It all depends. There's some people, like I say, you just hit it off and you connect so quickly, and there's some people you're just like, okay, this is not going anywhere, but eventually it grows on you, right? So, there is no formula, there is no recipe. Take your time, enjoy the ride as well.
Wow. Well, thank you so much to both of you, really. I think this was a very insightful discussion. I definitely had a lot of takeaways too, and just things that I learned from you guys. So I'm pretty sure people will appreciate everything that you guys had to share. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. You guys are both so, so wise, and I'm just really grateful, especially since this was the first episode, to have people who are just, I think you guys are very emotionally aware, which is really good to have. So thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
So I'm just going to close out the podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. There are going to be more episodes that are going to be coming. If you haven't checked out the trailer, make sure you check out the trailer. And also, before I close out this episode, I just want to give a massive shout out to the artist of the theme song that you guys are going to hear, and that's Masa, Caroleen. You can follow her on Instagram. Her music is on Spotify. Thank you so, so much for just bomb music.